In the heart of New York City, where the streets buzz with energy and ambition, I had been working on exposing scam call centers for months. It all started as a side project, something I did out of frustration after seeing how many innocent people were losing their savings to these criminals. My name is Daniel Carter, and my mission had become very clear. Track scammers, expose their lies, and if possible, make sure they feel the same frustration they cause thousands of others every single day. This particular story begins on a quiet Tuesday morning. I was sitting at my desk, sipping coffee, scrolling through my spam call logs. Most people ignore these calls, but I save them, analyze them, and trace them back to their origins. That day, I noticed a series of calls from a number that was clearly spoofed. The caller ID claimed it was from Washington, D.C., but the digital footprint showed it pinged back to a VoIP system being operated overseas. I hit the record button on my computer, dialed the number, and prepared myself. A heavily accented voice picked up. "Hello, sir. This is Officer Brown from the Internal Revenue Service. You are in very big trouble. There is a case filed against your name for tax fraud." I couldn't help but smirk. These guys always used the same script. They threatened legal action, arrest warrants, and jail time. But I knew how to play the game. "Oh no," I said, feigning panic. "What do I need to do?" The scammer on the other end seemed delighted by my gullibility. He told me I needed to immediately go to a nearby store and buy prepaid gift cards to resolve my case. As he talked, I traced his connection, digging deeper into his system. It wasn't long before I realized that this was no small-time operation. The scammer was connected to a larger call center, dozens of agents sitting in a room, reading scripts, tricking Americans into giving up thousands of dollars each day. As I continued the conversation, I pretended to be the perfect victim. I asked dumb questions, repeated things slowly, and let him feel in control. Meanwhile, my software was burrowing into his system. And then, like striking gold, I found an opening. One unsecured port gave me access to their internal files. On my screen, folders began to appear, lists of victims, recordings of past calls, even spreadsheets with stolen information. These weren't just scammers stealing money. They were harvesting identities, social security numbers, and financial data. The seriousness of the crime only fueled my determination. I decided it was time to unleash a little chaos. While keeping the scammer engaged on the phone, I triggered a script that began deleting files from their server. One by one, the documents they relied on to track victims vanished into digital dust. The scammer, oblivious, continued to tell me where to buy the gift cards. But then something incredible happened. He paused mid-sentence. I could hear yelling in the background. Other scammers were shouting, panicking, realizing that their files were disappearing. The calm, confident voice on the other end of the line suddenly shifted. "Sir, are you still there?" he asked nervously. "Yes, I'm here," I replied casually. "But it sounds like you've got some problems over there." "What are you talking about?" he snapped. I laughed. "I'm inside your system. Your files are gone. Your whole operation is crumbling right now." The silence that followed was priceless. Then, like a dam breaking, he exploded. "You stupid American! You don't know who you are dealing with," he shouted, his calm demeanor replaced by raw rage. The background noise grew louder, panic, shouting, the sound of people arguing. It was chaos inside the call center. I kept him on the line, taunting him just enough to keep him from hanging up. "You steal from innocent people every day. How does it feel when someone turns the tables?" He screamed insults, his anger boiling over. His threats grew more desperate, claiming that they would find me, that I had ruined years of work. But I knew the truth. I had only scratched the surface of their operation. With the data I had already collected, I passed everything to my contacts in cybersecurity law enforcement. For the next several hours, I continued to listen as the scammers' frustration turned into pure rage. They screamed at each other, blamed one another for what was happening, and eventually, one voice shouted that they needed to shut everything down. That night, as I sat back in my chair, I realized just how powerful exposing these criminals could be. It wasn't just about deleting files. It was about showing them that their victims weren't helpless, that there were people out there willing to fight back. Over the next few weeks, I worked with officials to track down more of their operations. Every file I uncovered, every trace I followed, led to another scam center. And every time, when they realized they had been exposed, the rage on the other end of the line was unforgettable. One call I'll never forget came from another scammer weeks later. He didn't even bother pretending to be an officer or an agent. He called me directly, his voice dripping with venom. "You destroyed my business. Do you know how much money we lost because of you?" I smiled and said, "Probably not as much as the families you scammed lost. But I'm glad to hear it hurt." He screamed until his voice cracked, unleashing every insult he could think of. But it didn't matter. His rage was proof that I was making a difference. The battle against scammers is far from over, but every time I hear that rage, every time I turn their confidence into panic, I know we're winning small victories. And to every victim who felt powerless after losing money, I dedicate these wins. Because sometimes, the best justice isn't just in courts or fines. It's in unleashing the very rage they tried to use against innocent people back onto themselves. And so, the story continues. Tomorrow there will be another scam call, another fake threat, another scammer trying to trick someone out of their hard-earned savings. But I'll be ready, with my systems armed and my resolve stronger than ever. Because nothing is more satisfying than unleashing scammer rage.